console install on the 2017 F250. You start by removing the little floor console. All these pieces down here, all these trim pieces. I actually think you got to pull this out too and pull the radio face out to give you access to both these panels. And then these little side pieces for the AC. And then you pretty much reverse it with the new parts. Let's get started. Start by pulling these cup holders out. Let me pull them out. There's going to be little screws you're going to pull out. These are 7mm. Remember, if you got a jump seat, you don't have to do this part. Alright, once the floor console is removed, these are the brackets we're going to remove because they don't get reused. A special note, this harness is just terminated right here. There's a cap. You have to pull this out and reuse it for the actual console because that's what's going to power the cigarette lighter in the back. There are 4 18mm bolts. Use breaker bar. Pull those out. Position the new brackets. Make sure the arrows are pointing forward. And bolt them down. Don't forget to disconnect this harness. Leave it out. That way you don't forget. Jump back up to the top. Get a pry bar tool in there. Pull this up. Two more 7mm. You're also going to want to pop the front of it. Once you get the 2 screws out, pop the 2 clips, pull this out. There's going to be a light sensor of some sort there. Disconnect that. And then you got 2 more 7s right here that holds the front of the radio face before you can pop it out. At this point, you should be able to pull on the radio face forward. There's a bunch of clips on the sides. Once you have the radio face out, you're going to have a bunch of harnesses that you're going to need to disconnect. These are the clips at the top, clips on the sides, bottom. Your hazard and traction control, you're basically going to pull this little tab on the side and pull it straight out. For the bigger one, you push this clip down, comes out. And for this cam lock, there's 2 different versions of these. One of these will have a clip that you move to the side to pull it out. This one, you just push straight down. So the reason the faceplate has to come out is all these notches on these side pieces, they snap in. So you're not going to be able to pull them out without taking that faceplate off. So we're going to take these 2 pieces off next and then work our way down. Alright, before we take those AC pieces out, I forgot that down here you got to take that off first, and that's just, again, 2 7mm on each side, and this black piece comes out. And on the passenger side, there is no screw. Looks like it's just clips on this side. I don't know if you can see that. So pull straight out, and then it'll go forward. Now you can remove this trim piece. Remove this harness for the 4-wheel drive system. These are all the clips you're going to contend with. So depending on the pieces that you get, you may get your AC pre-installed. Mine, I got to transfer it over. So it's just a bunch of clips on the sides. They're going to pop out, take the AC out, and swap it over to your other one. Again, pull these two. The next piece with the sync USB and the extra charger, there's two 7mm and two 10mm. Same deal, you gotta disconnect stuff. Disconnect the cigarette lighter, charger, port, and then the USB that's in the hub. You push that in, pull it straight out. You pull these tabs outwards to release off of those. Same deal with the bigger pieces. You're gonna pull these out, and if you don't have them, move your grills over. Using a flathead, we're gonna move the AC duct over to the other part just by moving these clips. Just pulls out. And take a new piece, just install it the same way. So comparison again, the different finishes. This is kind of like a textured, shiny finish. This is more of a anodized smooth finish with the chrome trim surrounds. And these guys, pull these clips out, and they'll pop out. Same deal as the vents on the little ones. That guy back in. Pop this guy back in just like you installed the little ones. Again, just for comparison, this is why we had to change the piece out. This big notch. For the four-wheel drive control, there are 3 clips, one here, one here, and one here, that you gotta sandwich in, and then it'll come out. Take your four-wheel drive control, snap it back in, and snap your AC control back in. Now, one thing I noticed on mine, this new guy did not come with clips for here. I want to go ahead, take these clips off, transfer them over to here. At this point, you could start taking all your newly swapped over pieces and reinstalling them. Just remember that any piece that you have, whether there's a button or not, there's a receptacle to put it in if it's a deleted option. Alright, so here's our first problem of the day. Now, the assumption that we had was this F150, F250 interchange was supposed to be exactly the same. While the AC part fits and the four-wheel drive part fits, this little cubby hole is apparently in a different spot on the 250. So here are the two pieces next to each other. Everything literally lines up except that hole. There are standoffs there, and the hole slightly lower, and the standoffs there. So I'm gonna have to get creative to see how I can make this work. Alright, so that's a dead harness for my car because all I had was this little pocket thing. Pulled the pocket thing out, went ahead and shaved the clips that don't exist on mine because that pocket's there, and it looks like it's going to work. The only issue is going to be that hole ends up right there. So I got a couple options. I could either make something 3D printed that would go there to kind of fill the hole, or I can attempt to cut that hole for that pocket and reinstall it. Alright, that did the trick. Snapped right in. And now I'm left with that, which I could probably make something that would snap in there and there and fill this hole. 3D printed out of ABS or PETG or something, but gets rid of that stupid thing that was completely useless. You can fit a finger in there if you want. Alright, so I initially thought that this piece replaced that piece down there. What it actually replaces is this guy up at the top. So instead of having that bolt in right there, this is going to bolt in right there, and what that's going to do is when the console goes in, it's going to finish off this, because if you don't have this, it leaves a big gap when you push the console in. That's what it looks like installed. One thing you're going to want to make sure of is there's a channel down the whole length of this thing. You're going to want to make sure that on both sides it pushes in all the way, or else when you go to put your faceplate back on, you're going to have clearance issues. That's how it finishes off the bottom with that extra trim piece. Don't forget to put your two 7mm back in. Install this piece. Just go back up here, line out the rear holes, push these in, put your two 7mm back in. So I've noticed another problem. So we have our USB hookup to the stereo. We have our front cigarette lighter. And then we have our rear cigarette lighter with a bunch of pins that I believe runs a cigarette lighter that's going to go in the back in the center console. What we don't have is that giant connector that is at the front of the console. And from what I understand, that is what's going to run the lights on the front cubby and the center console. So what we're going to have to do is pull that connector apart, figure out what 12 volt it needs, and then splice into something under the dash so that we have console lights. Alright, we got to uninstall the CD player, pull that out so we can get back to that vent that we need to cut for this piece that's going to bring the AC down to our new duct. And then we need to trace this USB and pull it out from the computer that's hosting it and then snake the one from the console back up and replace it. So you get the dual USB. If you trace this USB, it actually does some convoluted shit. It goes to that clip, goes all the way up to another clip up here, comes back down again, snakes around, and then goes into this controller. So that's what we got to unplug from. Alright, this is the USB cable we pulled out. That's the stock one. That's the connector at the end. And this is the connector on the console. You can see exactly the same. So by utilizing this one instead of this one, it's going to allow us to get double USB. So here's going to be the fun part. This is the new piece, and it's got this kind of O-ring channel type thing on it. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but this is what we need to attach to. And it's got a lip, like it looks like it's going to fit into that channel, but this whole bottom piece is solid. So I'm going to have to Dremel it out and then affix it to it, and hopefully it's going to make a good seal. Now the other interesting thing is there are two standoffs, and then two standoffs there, but it almost looks like it's got a provision for a nut. So I don't know if I could do a self-tapper in that, or I had to put a nut, put some epoxy in there, and then use a screw to go in there to hold it. But again, this is the piece we're going into. Just doing an initial test fit, and it does look like that channel goes straight over that piece. So we should be good. I just need to cut the hole, make the provisions for the screws, and that'll hold this in here. So basically what this is going to do is it's going to allow the upper AC to come out of this, to go through the console and come out the back. This other piece down here, I can move this out of the way, that feeds through the center, actually comes out from under the seats, and that's for the floor. So if you're running heat or AC, top and bottom, it's going to work on the floor and out the top and out the console. What people have been doing and cutting corners is they're just using this piece, they're pulling the center console part out, reutilizing this to go to the console, and basically what they're doing is they're making their upper AC not work out the back, but making their floor AC work out the back, which is stupid. So really the only tool you can fit in here is a Dremel with a cutoff wheel, and you just gotta put it on low and be insanely careful to just go around the inside radius of this thing and not cut the outside of the box, or you're gonna have a ridiculous AC leak. Alright, one side done. Just gotta do the other side. Both sides cut, if you can see that. Now, you gotta be a friggin' contortionist to get down there and do this, so I'd recommend pulling a seat out and give you some room to get under there. When you have everything still pulled out, don't forget to plug in the new USB to this module. Run it down here. There is a clip that goes into the dash. Do not put it back in there, or you're not gonna have enough length for when the center console comes back in. Piece is bolted in, comes down to the other piece that feeds straight into the console. Two tiny little threaded screws that wind up fitting those. That was a chore to get in. The only way you're getting the console in is to take the seat out, go in through the back, fold the seat up. So just go in this way. Alright, so again, come in from the back, get it kind of straddled where it needs to be, lift it up, and then get that harness on the passenger side by lifting up and reaching your hand underneath. It's the only way you're going to get to it. And then before you push all the way forward, you're going to need to connect the cigarette lighter and USB, because once you get this thing snapped in, you're done. You can't access anything once it's snapped in, or else you gotta pull the whole unit back out again. Once you have everything lined up, you're gonna put a 10mm in there, and then that's where those weird little covers go. And then you're gonna do 10mm there, 10mm there, and the same on both sides. Alright, remember these little brackets? These go up here, pitch in, and snap in somehow, but that's what they finish off. So they have that little screw, so when you're looking down you don't see it. That's what it looks like all snapped in. So you do need both sides. I'll update the description. And then you're gonna take these side finishing pieces and put them along here, and the driver's side has a 7mm screw that goes onto it, and the passenger side just snaps on. Driver side on, passenger side finishing plate, and bolt hole cover thing installed. Alright, everything is installed. Everything fits, everything looks good. Cool little door works. Best part of the console. Just did a quick preliminary check of what works and what doesn't. The lights do not work. There's one down there. That outlet works. The one inside of here does not work. The one in the back does not work. Now, I ran out of time, so what I did is I went ahead and just took that big old harness and put it right behind the stereo, so that when I get time, all I gotta do is pop the stereo out and I could get to the harness and pin it out and figure out what I gotta do. But the AC works, comes out the back, super big console, nice arming position for when you're driving. So all in all, pretty good swap. I'll keep you guys updated as to what I find on what it takes to get the rest of the electronics working.